Alright guys, so I'm back with another video. I'm going to show you the new addition to the Dynamic Additive Overlay System, DAO. This is going to be an alternative animation system, and I think it turned out pretty decent. The only thing that I still have to work out on this is this blend right here. It happens a little bit faster than the other one did. And also you'll notice that if we turn too fast, you'll notice that there's no lag actually in the AM offset anymore. But if we turn too fast, you'll get that pretzeling. It's actually not that easy to pull off, but it is. You can do it. So I think it might actually be easier to do here. Yeah. So yeah, there it goes. Okay. So I'll work out some logic for that sooner or later. But this method allows for far more simplistic logic, especially on rifles or two-handed weapons in general. And it also allows you to like reintroduce motion in a controlled way to a stiff pose. Now, some of you may not like this. You may find it more confusing, but I'll try to set up as many different scenario use cases as possible so that you guys can have an idea as to how it works. I had to treat things a little differently for this one. In actuality, if you see that debug draw right there, I'll go over that. But if you see that, it means copy motion is on. When you don't see it, it means it's off. So I'm actually not using copy motion for the aiming of the pistol. And the reason why is because it's just problematic. It's difficult to stabilize the hands with copy motion and still maintain accuracy. So in order to maintain accuracy, the technique that I had to use that I figured out myself, it kind of overwrites the copy motion, and so there's no point in having copy motion on during the single arm pistol aim using this technique that I'm using. And you'll see the hand is moving quite a bit, but that does not affect accuracy, and I'll explain that later. So let me just go over this debug draw. So if you press V on your keyboard, it'll make that go away. Let's see, yeah, V. If you press V on the keyboard, it'll make that go away. And so now you don't see it anymore. Now I am actually disabling, I'm actually disabling it whenever he jumps. And the reason why is because there were some issues with his elbow. Whenever he jumps, the leg IK that we use, it's kind of required for copy motion to work. So whenever he jumps, you'll notice that his arm kind of goes stiff right there. But that was kind of necessary because it was causing problems. I may investigate that further at a later date, and maybe we can get away with not disabling it during the jumps, but for now it's going to be disabled during the jumps. So everything in here is going to work basically the same way. The action data, I decided to keep that as a universal that's shared between the two. So on the copy motion, we'll have some entries in this CM data map, and based off of the stance they're in, we'll assign a copy motion data asset, which contains this information here. So yeah, right now I only have two, and I'm sharing those between the M9 and the M4A1, primarily because I didn't really feel the need to create any more, but you can create them as you need them, so that you can have different settings for different things. But yeah, so not much logic changed inside of here except for this right here, which is on rep held object state. Right here. This is where I added that. And here's some more variables down here that I have not actually categorized yet. I'll do that in a later update. The copy motion stuff is under this copy motion folder. And if you go under this folder, oh, it looks like I pushed that. I meant to delete this jog right here, but oh well. So, I mean, it's only 89 kilobytes. And I'm not using the idle pose either, but I am using this one. So I modified the pistol aiming pose because his arm was too far out and too stiff. His elbow was locked in that pose, and whenever he jumps, it kind of pulls his arm outwards. And so I had to make it just a little less stiff and unlock his elbow so that whenever we jump, it doesn't cause any problems with the hands. So it was either that or introduce some overly complex logic for something that I could simply fix by modifying the animation or the pose, I mean. So under this folder, you'll see this blueprint right here. This is a separate blueprint. You'll have to assign that under the default pawn class for the game mode by pressing this with it selected in your folder, or you can browse to it from here. I personally like going to the folder, selecting it, and then pressing the back button. The animation, yeah, I may need to clean this up a little bit. You'll see that I'm actually disabling hand-eye K whenever he's in the air in order to prevent a slight problem with the hand during the two-handed aiming pose. So if we jump like this, it'll cause the interpolation on the hand-eye K for the left hand, putting it right there where it is. The interpolation out of that is too slow, and so the hand ends up following the IK bone during the jump animation, causing his hand to very quickly go way back here, and his arm folds in the process. And then some weird blending issues can happen along the way as well. So that was my solution for that, at least for now. On the anim graph, everything is a bit more simpler than what it was before, as you can tell. And I'm just running this copy motion. The copy motion is happening on the linked anim layers, and so I duplicated the linked anim layers and modified those for the copy motion variants. And I'll go over that here in a little bit. But you'll see the offset root bone and the pose history. The pose history has to happen before the copy motion, guys, because it needs to be able to get these tracked bones off of here. The right hand actually may not need to be tracked. I think it's just primarily the left hand, maybe the virtual bone. So I may remove one or two of these bones from this tracked list, but basically, if you're grabbing a pose off the motion matching using the copy motion, the space, well, it's primarily the bone that is important that you're copying from. It needs to be in this list. So you're probably only going to need the virtual bone hand R. You're probably not going to need the hand L or the hand R. So I may remove that in a later update. The offset root bone, I did have it placed over here, but I was having problems with the offset root bone's interpolation by having it after the pose history. So I had to put it right here before the pose history. This happens before the offset root bone, and that may be what's causing that problem that I showed y'all before. And then everything else is basically the same. So if we go into here and we go into layering data, copy motion, oh no. If we go into copy motion variant, linked atom layers, and we open up the pistol, let me just open up the rifle first. You'll see I had an alternative that I tried. It seems more dynamic, but it introduces problems during acceleration while welding the two-handed weapon. It also introduced problems during acceleration with the rifle too, so I went back to the way I was using it before. We're copying from the hand R, and we're copying that to the virtual bone hand R on the L pose, and the hand R is being grabbed as an additive between the motion matching pose and the neutral pose. So I did find actually that I got better results if the neutral pose was actually the idle pose, at least for aiming. But in this case, it's not really that important. So I just left it as the ALS neutral pose. I had to separate the hand R leg IK from the hand L leg IK for the rifle, so that whenever we jump into the air, the arm does not clip inside the body. So you'll notice that I have this in a state machine, and what this does is it allows you to change your copy motion data right here. And whenever you do, it'll blend out of this one into this one. It'll blend out of the CM data T, as in true, and it'll blend into the one that uses the CM data F, which is the false. And that happens inside of here. So whenever we run this, and we run this whenever we change our state, as you can see here, we run this, and then it just sets it to the opposite, and then it sets that, and then this determines which of these gets executed. So if you need to swap between those data, that data during runtime, then you can, and it'll just automatically blend between them. It was either that, or I set up a complex interpolation system where it interpolates each of these values, and that seemed very performance heavy. So I decided just to do a state machine blend instead. It may end up having about the same impact on performance. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but I would say it probably won't, because to interpolate all this data independently is more than likely going to be heavier. So using a state machine probably makes more sense. If we go into the copy motion node, this is the logic that drives it. We have our overlay state, our aim, offset, pitch. We have a dead blend because these two nodes use inertialization for their blending. And that's the reason why we have a dead blend right there. We have a simple layering, which gives us a stiff pose because it's in mesh space rotation. It's a mesh space rotation blend on the spine 1 and up. And then we have a simple dynamic additive between the motion matching and the neutral pose, which gets applied on the spine and the shoulders, excluding the arms. If we want to aim, we're just going to use the stiff pose. We're not going to dynamically add the motion matching back onto it. And then this L pose is used by the copy blend state machine. And then this allows us to switch it on and off. So if you want to know how to switch it on and off, you can, for right now, I have it set as F. So that's what it would look like without copy motion. And that's what it would look like with copy motion. And you'll see it prints to the screen too in the upper left. And that's with and that's without. And that just allows you to see what the difference is between the two. And again, V on the keyboard will draw the debug. And that's just a command line. It's a CVAR, which gets ran. If I go back into, let's see. Yeah. Let's see, it's somewhere right here. Yeah, so V. This is what draws it. And that's the console command or CVAR that it's going to execute whenever you press it. So that's that. Over here on the pistol, the logic is going to be a little bit more complex. Oh, I actually forgot to cover this. So right here, whenever we switch from the pistol to the rifle and say we're in an aiming state, it will not automatically set up the data properly. And so this basically ensures that the data gets loaded properly whenever we're switching between these linked anim layers. So this delay right here is probably irrelevant now that I have it working, but I have it here anyway. And so it'll just keep running until these are valid in case the map hasn't been loaded into this linked anim layer yet, then it'll keep running it until it is. You could probably disconnect that. It should probably still work. In fact, it probably will never even fire, but in some cases it may. And that's a good kind of catch-all right there. But anyway, so let's go over the copy motion node on here. Basically the same exact thing. You'll see I was experimenting right here with those different poses. Oh, I'm actually using the idle pose right there on that. Okay. I think I left it as the end pose. Okay. So I never switched to this one back. Like I said, no big deal. It's just that the idle pose, the torso is twisted in much the same way that it is whenever they're jogging. That's just because the idle, that's during their jogs, their torso is twisted slightly to one side, I think. But like I said, it probably doesn't matter. You could hook this back up, this ALS in pose. I'm doing the same thing here. I left this in here. I was going to delete it, but it's not even being used. I'm only applying this additive pose at 50% on here. And in fact, I'm applying it fully on this one, which I guess is fine. But I got better results with less of that being applied on the upper body, that motion matching additively being applied on the upper body. So I reduced it by 50%, and that seems to give better results. Right here, I'm basically doing the same thing, except if we are aiming, then I will layer after the, well, we're not actually using the copy motion in this case. We're just using the L pose, and we're overlaying the overlay state, which is just the just this right here before the layering. And we're applying that in mesh space rotation blend on the lower arm R, which includes the hand and fingers, but it does not include the upper arm or the clavicle. And so I'm only applying that on the lower arm, and that's the reason why our hands move back and forth and left to right, but we're still accurate, and that's because we're applying it as a mesh space rotation blend. So if we're not aiming, then we're using the copy motion for that. And we're always layering the motion matching pose back onto the upper arm L after the copy motion. And the reason why is because if we don't, then we can't get that dynamic movement back in the arm. You can experiment and disconnect this just to see what it looks like if we do not do that. And I'll show you. So you'll see it's pretty stiff. Now the leg IK, if we were to, and that's because I have the leg IK disconnected in here actually. If we were to apply the leg IK back to this, and I'll just show you what that looks like. And we only apply it to the left hand, then even in that stiff pose, the arm will move a little bit, so it'll look a little bit more dynamic. But yeah, it seems like it's still really stiff, but it's just not as stiff. So that's what it would look like in the resting pose, because the arm isn't locked in the resting pose, and so it gives better results. But I don't like the way, I think that looks weird, so that's the reason why I just layer the motion matching back onto it. So that's how that works. And then of course right here we can disable and re-enable the motion matching. So anyway guys, that's basically the rundown on the copy motion system. These assets right here are under copy motion blueprints, data, layering data, copy motion. That's where this is, and the PDA, the primary data asset, is under here as well, which carries all of this stuff here. So that's pretty much it guys. I will see you in the next video. And yeah, let me know what you think about this versus the old, more complex system. I think it came out looking quite a bit better actually. But I'd like to hear from you guys as to how you feel about it.